Okay, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Gospel According to Chris on the Real Review 3000. I have an emergency that I have to go take care of, so we're going to go ahead and let our panelists take this show for a while. Hopefully, I'll be back. And our panelists today are Lee Cole the Fourth and Miss. Guys, take your turns and talk about things and talk about your channels. And then you know what the topic is. It is forced diversity, ethics, and agendas. So have at it, and I will be back if I can.
Okay.
All right. It's like the inmates running the prison. I love it.
Okay, ladies first, Lee.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, fine. You guys know who I am. I'm the sarcastic nerd, and everyone calls me Miss. I have the shorter intro, and I'm better.
Oh, this is gonna be quite the fun little chat we're gonna have today. I love it already. Well, you know what I'm gonna do. It is the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media shill money-taking, the man, the myth, the legend, the future guardian of the galaxy, and the Dave Filoni clone, Lee Cole the Fourth. I added all that just because people were like, your intro's too long. So I'm going to try now to go as long as I possibly can and make that like a 10-minute video. So, Miss, seeing as to it's ladies first because it's a discussion on diversity, ethics, and agendas, which seems to be what's been going on in general with the things that we know and love. Where do you think that this whole thing started as far as it becoming as rampant as it is right now? If you had to put a time frame, like when did you notice the changes that had started happening?
I mean, I think it happened before I noticed it, but it probably happened. I mean, when I noticed it was 2016, probably was when I noticed that it was starting to go on, that the left and the liberals were coming around and losing their damn minds. But it probably started before then, but it does feel like it sort of just suddenly happened, like it's all just been dropped on us and it came out of nowhere. But I think it's been coming in for a while.
I have an interesting fact. So I'm watching this thing about the Sonic, right? And I did a whole like rant on it. Okay, said Ghostbusters. Yeah, but that should have been one side. I saw this. I should have seen this. Well, actually, I should have seen this coming a long time ago. But there was a statement that was released to the public how Sony president Ikaya was upset that the film directors were listening to the people. And he said, and I quote, for 28 years, we've been making Sonic games, and now they've sort of become like a parody, and fans have gotten used to poor quality. Now, this is a man coming out that's saying, for 28 years, when I noticed as a gamer, right, I'm like, wow, this is getting really bad, right? Like, it's not as fun as it used to be, right? All the way up to like Dreamcast, Sega, whatever. I started seeing the quality drop, but they had made such profit that we had noticed. And now you have this guy who blatantly comes out and makes a statement like, hey, I've been doing this for 28 years. And I've never pandered, was his exact words, to the fans. And it's worked fine. So these directors shouldn't. So just think about that. It might not have been, this whole agenda pushing could have been a slow burn. I mean, if you're thinking like he's talking for 28 years, then we're going before 2000s. I mean, this man has been super secretly just making inferior products and going, well, it's selling, so I'm going to just keep on pushing it out.
What does the chat say? I mean, like, what does the chat think?
Chat down below.
Chat.
I want
Help
to
us
get
out.
your opinions. What do you think about someone who openly comes out and they're saying to you that they have purposely made a crappy product, and you, the unknowing consumer, have brought it thinking maybe it's going to get better, and they are purposely making it bad because we keep on buying it, and they think that's what we want now because of this trend. So basically, companies, or at least Sega, acknowledged that they were making an inferior product. They didn't care. They were making money. That's what this statement is not even underliningly say. That's basically what the president of the president of Sega is saying. He is saying that I have been making crappy products and you shouldn't pander to these people and don't make the best possible movie that you can. Just do what we do and, forget what the fans think. And then he had the nerve to say that they like bad products. And someone came out and said, yeah, I always liked making fun of the games. And I think that it was terrible the director changed his view. He should have kept the design the same.
Well, the whole Sonic thing is just. I'm glad the director guy has seen the light, and I hope he doesn't listen to any of them. Okay, Mary says, I actually don't care if they purposely push diversity and the like. My issues are when it's an inferior product and you slander me for not liking your crappy products and call me a racist and sexist. But I feel like the forced diversity has a hand in the shitty product. Like Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters might have been a good movie if they hadn't pushed for it to be this big feminine movie.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I got to be honest with you. When I saw the casting, I was not necessarily worried. Okay, I like Melissa McCarthy. Okay, didn't really know the other chick. I knew the blonde one, but I didn't. I knew that they were comics of some kind, and that's fine. It was the original, whereas four of the best comedians of the era together, who happened to be males, that worked together, and the dialogue and everything worked. Now, I actually watched that movie for as much as I could take. And here's the thing. If you want to talk about, they called us sexist and stuff and said that we didn't like the film. But when you watch it, the jokes were very base and intentionally crude just to be crude. There was nothing funny about it. And, they're talking about being diverse, and they make the only African American like stereotypical in the movie. Like the way she acts it out and everything is putting a stereotype on herself. So
Yeah.
I don't understand exactly then. What are you going for with this whole thing? You say you want to be diverse, but then you don't make the best product you can make. And that's where it comes in, where the diversity is killing the quality of the product that's coming out. And that's what I'm saying about Sega. They have a mindset of making inferior products. We're buying the inferior products, so they think that's what they need to push out. They kind of go hand in hand.
Kay says, when people have a problem with your product, you should acknowledge it. Making something you don't think is good, but people do like, is different. There's difference between refusing to acknowledge people thinking it's bad and putting out something that's bad that people like anyway. It's like The Last Jedi versus the prequels.
Exactly.
And then Mary says, I feel like it's more tokenism when you do it solely for the sake of representation as opposed to just letting it happen when it happens. I don't need a bisexual in the plot unless it serves the plot. Yeah.
Exactly, Mary. Exactly. It is exactly what this title is. It is forcing the issue when really you can organically storytell. For years, people have organically been tackling relevant issues. Go back to like the 70s where they were doing anti-Vietnam movies, right? Some of those are some of my favorite movies of all time. You had Good Morning Vietnam, with Robin Williams. You had things like that. Those were directly Platoon, Apocalypse Now, all those, they're directly protests to the war. But the way they're artistically done, it doesn't feel forced. It's beautifully acted. It's very well acted with having an underlying message against whatever it's talking about. Right? So you have the agenda there, but it's not at the forefront. The storytelling is at the forefront. Now, Miss, I want to know, what was your reaction when you came out of Last Jedi?
My initial reaction was meh, like my dad's. Me and my dad both seemed to be on the same level and when watching movies, and we were both kind of like, it was okay. But then, as time went on, we were like, there's something wrong there. There's something wrong with the movie, and we can't seem to put it together for some reason. But then I was like, oh my god, every single male character in that movie was absolute crap. Like, all of them were useless. And it exploded with this whole, oh my god, this is why The Last Jedi sucks. They lifted up all the female characters by making all the male characters dumb, reckless, just gun happy, useless people. And it pissed me off quite a bit because I'm not when I'm watching a movie, I'm not looking for a female to represent me or to look up to. I'm looking for a story, and if I happen to like the female character in it, then yay. But I guess you could say that we're trying to make a female. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a female hero for kids, for little girls to look up to. But if you're going to do that, make the hero not impossible.
Exactly. It's a with this diversity and ethics and agendas, it's a lot of the real world spilling into the fake world. It's a lot of issues that are being done outside of entertainment, but now it's spilling over into it, and it's not in a way where they're saying a message that is wrapped around plot, good storytelling, or whatever else. Directors, producers, writers, and all of them are just saying, here you go, and they're giving us a giant mess using our franchise as a vehicle, and the messaging is like the forefront, not the story, not the acting. None of that is at the forefront. It's what they want to get across, how they feel their biases are taking over the storytelling. That's where we have the issues coming out.
Yeah, and they also, it's not even just Star Wars, it's Star Trek and it's Doctor Who. Doctor Who, I think, pisses me off the most with the.
Oh, let's talk Doctor Who, because finally, and Kay is in the chat too, and we all now know that we're Doctor Who fans.
Yeah.
So my problems with this new season, when I heard a female doctor, everyone got up in arms, and I said, well, not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, traditionally, the doctor has always been male, but whatever. If she's good and if she's compelling, then so be it. I've liked Doctor Who for what it was. My problem was poor writing and no connectivity. Every season of Doctor Who, had callbacks from episodes that had previously happened, and everything in the season tied together to what the end or the final was going to be. This one was like disjointed episodes that made no sense. There were no callbacks to anything that had previously come. And quite honestly, the acting was pretty bad. I mean, Doctor Who is not going to win any Academy Awards anytime soon, but there has been some pretty good doctors over the years.
See, my issue, I always had an issue with the Doctor changing gender. I had it before the show even started when they said they were going to do that. And that's one, because they did it for fan service and not as part of the story. The feminist fans have been wanting the Doctor to be a female for years. They've been asking for it, and the shows tried to accommodate them by making the Master female, which wasn't a big deal. That didn't bother me at all. with like Donna, with River, with all these characters trying to help be like, hey, here's a female doctor. And like, no, we want the doctor to be female. So they finally gave in and did it, which is what annoyed me. And just the idea that they couldn't just do another show and not change the one that already was pretty much set as the doctor being a male. The doctor has a daughter. I don't know why they couldn't make her have a show.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
That wouldn't have been hard, but I guess they just had to change the doctor's gender. And that annoys the crap out of me. I mean, he could have changed. The doctor was like the only straight white male on the show. All his companions were female, black, and gay, which no one had a problem with. Never had a problem with that. If the doctor. And they try to say he's an alien. He can. It doesn't really matter because he's an alien, so it's not that big of a stretch for him to change gender. I think it absolutely is a big stretch for him to change gender because that's really hard to do.
But here's the thing. This as an example, one of my favorite shows was actually I more lean towards Torchwood, and that to me was a pretty good offshoot of Doctor Who, and the way that they did everything there, you had a strong female character. The central character was kind of like the Doctor in a sense, or came from that world, and his sexual orientation had been both, but it had been kind of nice the way they interjected the story because it was part of the, hey, he's lived a really long time, so he's had multiple lovers throughout his lifetime, which makes sense to the story. And they just did all of that stuff very, very well, whereas this new season of Doctor Who did not set up anything really well. And I don't know about you, but I got a sense like they really didn't know what they were doing with the story. Like, I, for the life of me, can't even remember who the bad guy was of the story. I can't remember much of the season, to tell you the truth. It was very forgettable writing.
Yeah. I'm never going to watch Doctor Who now after what they've done to it. And to talk about, it's hard to talk about because I don't want to offend people because there's things I have issue with that aren't even a big deal. Like, and it's we're in a tough time when you can't express your opinion about something because you're afraid someone's going to be offended, even when you're in a group of people who aren't actually that easily offended and most likely will agree with you. Or even if they don't, they're not going to like chase you out of the group with pitchforks. But there's still that level of fear there. And I think that's sort of hurting us in a way where we can't seem to fully express what we think or what bothers us about something.
Kay just said what I was thinking in my head. Miss, don't be afraid, girl. I threw that last part in. Go ahead. You know what? If we can't have discussions like this, especially considering this is about diversity, ethics, agendas, then where can we discuss this? Right? If we can't as a community be able to vent ourselves, and I'm looking through the chat, and we have all sorts of people, and thank you everyone who's in the chat. We have all sorts of people from different backgrounds, different walks of life, and they're still tuned into us, watching on the edge of their seat, wondering what Miss is going to say. So don't be afraid to express your opinion, because I don't know if you don't notice, I don't care. This is me. This is who I am. I've never, ever held my tongue just because I might hurt someone's feelings.
We know you've never done that.
And honestly, I don't care if you guys rip on me, as you know, Miss, with a certain situation that we're not going to say because then I'll get embarrassed.
Anyway, all I was going to say that my issue with the Doctor Who thing, with the Doctor changing gender, as I was saying, it is hard to change your gender, and I want to say that there are some things that even people who are right now in our world trying to change their gender, they can't change, which is really hard, which I know is really mentally just hard. And I feel sorry, but you can't change that. There's a reason that the Doctor can't change into another alien. He can change his external appearance. He can't change his innards. He can't suddenly have 3 hearts or 4 hearts. That's what bothers me about him changing gender. There's just things you can't change biologically about yourself, even the Doctor. The Doctor's ability to regenerate should have limits. And I think him changing gender is really weird. Even though the Master changed gender, right? Which I don't. I think would be easier. I think it would be easier to accept that the Doctor changed gender if his mindset sort of said that he would. But pretty sure the Master was destroyed, right? Like physically destroyed.
Yes.
So the Master coming back as a different gender kind of could make sense in that sense, not just suddenly regenerating into a female.
And the
You know what I
crowd
mean?
was quiet.
Yeah, I know. Let's see. I knew I would offend somebody.
No. All right, guys. I am sorry, but thank you, Miss. Thank you, Lee, for carrying my weight. I appreciate it. That's a big ego you have to carry, but thank you.
Don't worry, my ego gets bigger by the day too. So I'll show to
The
everybody.
more you steal from me, the more you think you're bigger, but that's okay. I got plenty to go around. Miss,
Yeah.
what are we talking about?
Doctor Who and
Oh, yeah.
the change of gender, my expression. I understand Kay just said no, the Doctor can change everything in canon. My issue with the change is that it's a erasure of male role models. The rule is Time Lords have to consciously choose to change, which I can totally get and fine. They have to be mentally okay with that. I don't think the Doctor thinks he's anything but a male. That's my thing.
I can see that. But the question is I think the question with anything Doctor Who is we know that they are Time Lords, that he comes from the Time Lords.
Mhm.
And I think we automatically, a lot of people put a gender to that. And I'm not sure, only because of what we've watched over the years, has it ever been figured that this is a male, that it's always going to be a male. I don't necessarily have an issue with this, and I'm not sure if I would put this under the forced side of things. One, because it's a British show, and Brits don't quite follow on the same thing that Americans do, and American ideologies are, because they've been around a lot longer, and so it's not as taboo sometimes when things like that happen. You look at mixed race marriages over in Europe and other places, and it's just not looked upon as taboo as it is here in the United States. It's not that it's wrong, but a lot of things are more accepted over there. So I'm not sure if they're.
I think it's forced because I think it was fan service that drove them to change the Doctor's gender, not for story. It wasn't done for story. It was done because fans wanted it to happen.
I can see that, but then the question is are they wrong for doing it? Because if they're listening to the fans,
they're listening to the small itty bitty part of fans that are feminists.
There you go. Okay. So, I mean, I can see it. I haven't watched the new Doctor yet, so I really don't know much about it. I just know it was going to happen, and I'm like, okay, I guess. And I think that's how I go with a lot of this stuff is when they change genders of characters, or when they start inserting more genders, more diversity in genders, but it's so obvious that it's done that it is typically fan service to the small groups. And I think
Endgame.
well, yeah. And Endgame is the again, Lee, we were on Mary's channel and on her spoiler discussion, we brought it up. it felt so forced there at the end. I'm sitting there it was like, I don't know, it's like being in a boxing ring, and here you go, and you're going for 10 rounds. You feel good. You think the fight's in your side. You're doing well. And the next thing you know, those last 2 rounds, they just started jabbing and jabbing, throwing body punch after body punch, hitting the head. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're like, how the hell did I start losing this thing? And it just was like such a flip of script at the end there, and it was all just thrown right at you. And again, I said it was their way of saying, have fun, guys. You got what you wanted. We're done.
And now here's the thing, because we're talking about diversity and agendas and things like that. We've already pre-established with Captain Whammon where they were going with this, which was a softball in my estimate, because we talked about this before, which was a softball way of introducing what they're going through. But now, as an MCU fan, and you too, Chris, and knowing where the movies have come from, it's really weird, because I was checking out the new lineup and stuff like that. I watched the new Far From Home trailer, and now the thing with time travel is now being talked about as like alternate realities and things like that. But there were a lot of things that were inserted that I thought were forced in because they had to put it in there. Like, I mean, if you take out that last 5 seconds of all of the females dropping in and whatnot, does it change? That's what I go by. Does it change the movie and the outcome to what would have happened in the story? Does it affect it drastically and make it worse because that's in there? And no, it doesn't. Quite literally, you could take that whole scene out and you still, at the end of the day, have the same film.
Yeah,
you could have actually taken out Captain Marvel and just swapped it to someone else. Because when you think about it, in the beginning, Nebula comes in and goes, I know where the coordinates is. So why is she in the film again? She's not telling anyone anything relevant or important. She doesn't really contribute to actually killing Thanos in any way, shape, or form. So once again, if you substitute this, does it change the film at all? No. Quite literally, you can take that out and you still have the same movie from beginning to end. And that's what I based my forced agendas on, is if I'm watching something and this is in it, is it adding or is it subtracting, or is it just not needed whatsoever to move the story along?
Yeah. I think that Endgame is a good reference point to show the forced diversity card, and possibly, well, not possibly, but the forced agendas, even though it's in the very last part. I'm not sure if I put Captain Marvel in that, but I agree with you totally that the Captain Marvel movie itself was not needed, and I don't know if she's absolutely needed in this movie. But I didn't come away from Captain Marvel thinking it was a complete forced agenda movie when I watched it. I mean, it was lackluster to me. It wasn't the standard big Marvel movie, but in Endgame, everything did feel forced. They took away the characters we loved. They made sure you knew they weren't coming back. And now they said these are, I mean, it's an obvious nod to every one of those changing of the guard in that movie, that they are going for an agenda. The framing of certain shots where you had all the women coming across as possibly the new Avengers. You had Valkyrie getting Asgard. All this stuff is very much fan service to a demographic that would much rather tell you to do something than allow you to naturally gravitate towards that. And that's the problem with forced anything in today's Hollywood and in today's world. These movements are trying to say, well, there's not enough of this, so you have to do this. If you don't do this, then you're against us. You're not for diversity. You're not for this stuff.
The thing is, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go
I
ahead.
was going to say that doing that does the exact opposite of what they're claiming they're trying to do. Trying to say that we're okay with the LGBTQ community or people of color, but by specifically putting them in the spotlight, they're saying that they're different and need to be put in the spotlight when they aren't.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. These people who do this think that they're helping the cause. And this is what the problem is with forced diversity, forced ethics, forced morality, forced agendas, is that by forcing it on the public, you are therefore actually making it more obvious that there's a division possibly. And these movements do this. They're not really for the diversity necessarily. They're just for the look at what I'm doing for the world. Look at me. I'm pushing for this. I'm pushing for that. Don't tell me that Brie Larson's really concerned if there's enough minorities who are critics out there. She's not concerned about that. She's getting press and she likes it because she wasn't that big of an actress before she took Captain Marvel. And now all of a sudden, because she's voicing all this loud, boisterous, oh, don't tell me I'm Tom Cruise. I'm the next me. I'm awesome. Da, 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 da. There's not enough diversity and critics. There's not this. There's not that. She's getting press. And you give these guys press, they're going to think, well, look, now I have a platform and I can push this and I can push this. And really, it's for them because they want to be the face of this.
Can I give you an example here? And this is what I find funny and ironic. If you go to just looking at news stations, for instance, okay, normal people have stopped watching the news because, and I don't care which spectrum you fall on, I know what channel I watch, but, if you're going towards the news route, right, you have an ultra left-leaning view or an ultra right-leaning view and nothing in between. And why are ratings suffering for regular news broadcasting, and why are people coming to YouTube? Because you have all these people interjecting their diversity issues, their politics, and not reporting on, oh my God, there was a fire at blah, 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 blah. No, they are reporting on what did this person do at the White House, and oh my God, it means that the world's going to end kind of news reporting. And we have seen their ratings drop. Now, why is it that people can say, I don't want to tune into this, but yet Hollywood is essentially doing the same thing, and yet normal movie-going people are accepting that? And that is the issue, because unless Hollywood gets the same memo that normal network news has been getting for years and being hammered, I mean, the viewership for most news stations has gone down over almost 70%. 70%. It used to be back in the day, people turned on news and bam, that's where you got everything. Now people are saying no, because every time I turn on the news, it's always about the president. It's always about something, someone, whether it's the left or right, are talking about this. And I don't care about this. I just want to know what's going on in the world. Now you have Hollywood going, I'm making this, and this product. And then they're slowly introducing this, and this. And they're not watching the same interviews about Brie Larson that we're watching. They're not weighing it on that. They're going to the movie and they're going, well, I'm still going to pay $10.50 because it's this product. And people aren't getting educated on what they're viewing. They're just going and they're viewing it. As long as we have people doing that and not getting facts, then they're just going to continue feeding this pandering SJW view until a mass group of people say, okay, I'm done. That is what happened with Star Wars when that Last Jedi disappointed so many people. You had Han Solo come out. Well, you had people going, I was really disappointed by this last movie, and I don't really care about this story, so I think I'm going to skip this one.
I think it was more the fact that the Last Jedi people who didn't like it, that started calling for, hey, what are we doing to the characters we love? Those people were attacked by the SJWs and by these people who want to force these agendas on us. And that was a big problem. And so, like you said, the people fought back and said, you want to see what we can do? And they did it with Solo. I don't think that they had the steam to do it with Captain Marvel because Marvel has not done that so blatantly yet. And then the Endgame movie, they did start doing that. And so it will be interesting as time goes along. I think Spider-Man's fine, but after that, it will be interesting to see what happens. Now we talk about.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
just to jump in there, I did hear something that I wasn't necessarily against, but I thought was kind of cool if we're talking about diversity. As you guys know, I'm a martial arts instructor from a family
You
of
mention it every
champions.
chance you get.
Let me get Larson. So, like I'm saying though, the Asian culture has, to me, just started getting representation, right? We're talking about all these groups who haven't been getting representation. Now, I was pretty excited because they're making a Shang-Chi movie about one of my characters or one of my favorite characters. He's like a mix of Bruce Lee and Iron Fist, I think was the best description I heard. And it's going to be an Asian director, Asian casting and stuff like that. And I don't have a problem with that because it doesn't break the continuity of what the character is supposed to be. I think that's actually a very good, when we're talking about diversity and agendas, I think that is a very good, almost not even pushing an agenda, but homage to what the character is. And therefore, I don't really, no one's going to look at that. They're going to look at how well the movie goes, right? So if you want to make this push and recognize these groups, there are different ways to do it. Like everyone says, oh, Black Panther, with African-American representation. I'll admit it was pretty tastefully done, that the way that they had the actor set up. Now, I don't like the movie per se, and I've talked about why, but I don't think that was very forced either. They were in a African-American based place in the world. They had the cast they had, and for the most part, each of them acted pretty well.
You know what was forced though was saying that there was people saying that white people shouldn't go to the theater and let African Americans go first.
Yeah, but here's the thing: that wasn't the actors coming out and saying that, or Marvel.
Well,
that was people.
Go ahead. Yeah.
That was
okay.
Media.
And I think right there we're getting into my other part here, where I said, if these are forced things, the diversity, ethics, morality, agendas, if these are all forced, what are the repercussions of things being forced? One, right there's more of a separation when you got people saying, oh wait, no, you let African Americans go see this movie, this is their movie. And now what you're doing is you're really forcing a divide between skin color, or you're forcing a divide between different ethnic groups. You're forcing that divide, or you're forcing the divide between the sexes and things like that, instead of things like the original Star Wars, the original trilogy. Everybody says it. You have these, even if it's droids, you had this wide variety of characters and nobody questioned it. But when you look back now, you're like, there's diversity, but it wasn't forced. This is just George Lucas looking for the best actors and actresses for the parts. And he already had, he said, okay, I have this, this female character who's going to be Princess Leia. I have this male character who's going to be Luke Skywalker. I have this other male character who's Han Solo. Let's get people in here and we're going to cast all these people. And they casted and they casted and they casted and they casted it in groups. So these groups worked well together. Now, if you look at the new trilogy, I don't know if it's how they did it, but I don't think they did it in groups. I think they've casted a person and the person fit a mold that they wanted to represent. And by doing so, you put together what looks to be a diverse cast. But the problem is the cast themselves have nowhere to go because you've already given them their arc, and we don't know what their arc is because it's just handed to them at the beginning. We didn't go on a journey with these characters. Most of us, including myself, the only reason why I'm going to these movies is because I wanted to see what happened to the people I loved from the first ones. And increasingly, we are getting worse and worse points on that because they're killing people off. They're not totally honoring people. And again, I like The Last Jedi, but I'm not one that sits here and says there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I wouldn't have fought a person who said that it's a crap movie. That's an opinion, and you're right to have that opinion because there are a lot of things. I hope that they fix it, but they're probably not going to. But I'm still going to go see the next one. But when you look at these casts from back in the day and from other movies, they didn't force this diversity on us. Women might have had to fight harder to get into movies, but the women that made it into movies were strong characters, like Basic Instinct. Whether or not you like the movie or not, you got to look at these things and say that these characters were strong because of the actress that was behind them. That actress was picked because she could carry that role. And, Julia Roberts, I think, is a great example of that. Every role she's in, she fits that mold of that character so well, whether or not, it's Pretty Woman or it's Ocean's 11 or it's, just Erin Brockovich, any of these movies, she fits the character so well, and they're all different characters, but she can walk into that role, and she's a strong enough female actress that she can carry it, and we don't question it. It wasn't forced that they put her in there. She was the best actress for that job.
Look at the X-Files, right?
Yeah. Oh.
Dana Scully and Mulder. You can't tell me that's not a prime example when they're talking about diversity. That show was diverse in every way because you had Fox Mulder, who thought outside the box, aliens are real, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Dana Scully, grounded about the science of everything, keeping each other level. There's a counterbalance, counterbalance. And the problem is with forcing diversity or not picking, I don't know, the freaking best person for the job instead of worrying about whether you click you check that box, is that they're not getting people who can actually act. They're getting unknown people I've never heard of, nor do I care about, and they're putting them in a role. I mean, to sit here and hear from Brie Larson's own mouth that she just read a script with a couple of lines in it, and they were like, here you go. Here's the role of a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
How is that casting the best person for the job? Used to be, when I was younger, I heard that, hey, several people read for the role. Mm-hmm. They didn't know the character's name, but they knew they were going to be in the movie, and they might be this character, and depending on how you read, you got whichever character your reading fit. Now it's like they find these people and they put them in a role that they're underqualified for or that they don't fit at all and force it into the story, which ruins it because the actor has no freaking idea how to play the role or what they're supposed to go for. And you have a director who's agenda-driven and wants to check this, and this, and off, so they're neglecting story. And that is where the problem with this is. And as far as world effects goes, then these people are coming out and splitting fan bases by attacking us for having an opinion. So now you're bleeding it through into real life where people are legitimately arguing and getting mad, and you're causing real life conflict for a freaking movie.
Well,
just think about how insane that notion is. You're saying you're championing diversity, but you're causing a split in diversity. And you're saying this is made for this person. Therefore, if you are this person, you cannot go and see it. That's creating real racial or sexist or any of those tensions that didn't exist before you made this fake product.
Well, It's Vase Productions even said it in the chat that SJWs aren't really looking for anything more than overcorrection. And I said that I don't think they want overcorrection. They want a clear and distinct separation of race, sex, and ethics among the public. They're causing a definite, this is you go over here because you're a part of this group. You are a part of this group. And I can't remember the YouTuber, but there was this guy on a rant about it's getting so bad that you could very well say in 10 years, if this continues, that you're going to get a rating that is no longer PG, PG-13, G, R. You're not going to get that anymore. What you're going to get is WM-17. So a white male who's above 17 can go see this movie. Or a BM, 13. So any child over 13 who's a black male should go see this movie. It's literally, that's where we're going, and we don't need to separate races. We don't need to separate sexes. We need people to coexist. But the only way to do that is to allow people to come upon that distinction or that ethic line themselves. They have to do it themselves, because if it's put on them, if it's drilled into them, eventually they're just doing it because they're programmed. So there isn't really an equality there. It is just something you do. It's a motion. It's like going to work. I don't go to work because it's something I necessarily enjoy. I go to work because that's how I make money. I go to work because that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what my brain tells me. But if I wanted to do what I wanted to do, I wouldn't be going to work, but I know better. See, work is forced upon you because that's how the world works.
But this is bleeding over into real life. These divides are in the work world. Okay, people are scared to death about saying something wrong in the presence of female company, because now with the new think that's out there, and I work with a lot of younger kids, it's like, oh, if I say this joke, is there that one person who's overly offensive, and now my job is at stake because I told a joke.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the joke was, right? But someone took it out of context, and now I'm sitting there in the office with a write-up. Like, I'm actually surprised I haven't been written up a couple of times. I took Goose the cat and I put it on the poster of Captain Marvel, and it was there for like 3 hours before anyone noticed.
I think it comes down to, with the separation, it comes down to that victim card. They want to be separated so that they have their own personal, I'm a victim because of this. So they need to separate themselves. They can't be the same as this person or the same as this person. They need to be able to say, oh, I'm African American and gay. These are my oppressions. Feel sorry for me. They need those things to happen, and that's why they're separating everybody into these little groups. And they're calling it equality. They're calling it they're just trying to be inclusive but diverse at the same time. So it sounds good, but what they really want is to just be like, feel sorry for me for these specific reasons because I'm not the same as those white people. I have all these issues.
I remember there was this time, and I when I was living in New York, and I lived in a very urban, populated setting, we'll say, right? And you know what's funny? They put these labels and these discriminations, but I was hanging around all different cultures, and I was accepted, and no one looked at me and said, "What is this white boy doing?" You know. I did rap battles with everyone else and things like that. And I just kind of got assimilated into the group, and no one saw me as anything else but this crazy white kid occasionally who would come around and have some things to say. And everyone thought it was humorous and funny, but they didn't say, oh, because you're not this color, you're not this race, we're not going to accept you. I came in, I did my piece, and they were like, wow, this dude's crazy. I like him. I like his personality. There was never that divide until someone brought it to someone's attention, and, with these films and stuff, bringing these issues to the attention. But these issues haven't really been a thing now for quite some time. Maybe on some base level, there's been stuff here and there. And as long as man is man and people are ignorant, you're going to have people who are going to have certain problems that arises that'll be cultural, or sexism or racism or whatever other ism there is out there. But that's a very small minority now. We're all getting along. I mean, look at this community. Look at all of the different diverse people we have in this community, all walks of life, everybody voicing their opinions. And I don't see anyone here getting upset because of something that's said. Now, we might strongly disagree with each other. We might get passionate, but at the end of the day, we can still go, hey, good point, whatever. You see it this way, I see it this way, and I'm going to go about my day. But the media continues to perpetuate stereotypes, like you said, Miss, because they want that almighty virtual signaling card. They're actually creating stereotypes by trying to supposedly get rid of them. They're just bringing up stuff that hasn't been a thing, that no one's thinking about.
Yeah. See, I mean, the problem is that if you're taught that every human is equal and all humans are alike, it's easier to go through life, because I was taught that I am like everyone else and everyone else is like me, but I myself am a unique person. No one person is like the next, but we all are all the same. If you cut us, we all bleed the same color. If you if you hurt our feelings, we're all the same. If you attack us, we'll get defensive. But I don't need to know what color your skin is. I don't need to know if you're a male or a female to know that for the most part you share those same frailties, those same strong points. Everybody has very similar things, but our ability to be unique is what defines who we are, not the color of our skin. And that's the problem that Hollywood and a lot of these groups now have gone overboard to say, look, though, this person's this and this person's this, and this is what makes them different. And that's not what makes a person different. And that's the problem with forced diversity, is that you are blatantly attempting to separate people instead of including people. We all know, Miss Lee, everybody in the chat knows that, like in the Couture chat, we all rib each other. We all have a good time, but we're all very similar people and we all respect each other. And that is, that's how it should be. And it doesn't matter what color your skin is in that chat. It doesn't matter what your what your ethnic background is. It doesn't really matter what your political affiliation is. It doesn't matter what what your orientation is. It doesn't matter, because we are very similar in who we are, but we are each individually screwed up in our own way. and that's the fun thing, though. That's what makes that group so great, is that there's diversity there, but that diversity wasn't forced. That diversity came together for like causes. And that's how you get true diversity. You get true diversity from like causes and like minds, but not because somebody picked you out of a group and picked out 40 other people out of a group and said, you guys are in the group, you are a diverse group now, and you're all going to be over here, but you have to act, you got to act right around each other. That doesn't work. And ethics is the same thing. You can't tell somebody that telling a child, go to your room, face the corner, and think about what you did. What I always used to say is, well, you tell your kid to do that, he's going to get better at it. He's not going to learn from that. You trying to force him to learn something isn't going to force. He's not going to do that. Children don't just get forced to learn. They learn it by experience and by how it's handled. If a kid steals candy from a store and the cop comes, well, they're probably going to be scared because of what happens. And lots of times that's how it changes. But that's not because somebody forced it. It's because it was a cause and effect. And it was natural progression of things. And that's the cause right now, that there is no natural progression. Hollywood has gone more to we're the ones carrying the torch. If we don't do this, nobody's going to do this. And they're trying so hard in so many different venues now that it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if you listen to the old Gene Roddenberry interviews about the original Star Trek, he wanted a Russian on there. He wanted he wanted an Asian man. He wanted an African American woman. He wanted all these different people, and then he threw in Spock, who was an alien, which again diversified it. While Vulcans don't really exist, at least we don't think they do. But he went and he said, I'm going to cast this, but he looked for the best people to fit his mold that he wanted to show that there was diversity. But did it feel forced? No. And what's funny is when you watch that back, the older series and the movies, you watch that and it's amazing. You're like, wow, this is great. They all hated each other, but you couldn't tell that. That's what's funny. They all, mostly hated William Shatner, but they all had infighting during that time. But you couldn't tell because they worked so well on screen together. And that's a testament to true diversity, not forced diversity.
And
Sean would like me to remind you, Chris, that you actually are afraid of strong females.
No, I'm not. Stronger the better, baby.
And just to let you know, I may have to jump out of here soon because I have another engagement as well.
Okay.
But yeah, my overarching thought is that I feel like it wouldn't feel like such a play, such a forced thing if storytelling was like it used to be, Chris, when we watched all of our stuff and it was grown organically. I was just talking about, like, you had protests against the Vietnam War, but those movies were great movies and you never felt like it was forced to say, hey, I hate the Vietnam War. It was showing the horrific things that happen and the ramifications of those things onto the people in the setting. And some of them are considered the greatest movies of all time, but make no mistake, there's political messaging in it. But the story was of the forefront and the theme grew and tangled into what they were saying organically, where here you're trying to shove something in inorganically, and you could see it's blatant. It's like being beat over the head with something, you're being beat over the head with it. That's the problem that people have. That's the thing that's making people upset, is there's no it's not organic storytelling. It's very forced, very like, you're going to see it this way, or we're going to attack you kind of a deal.
I mean, I think we all can agree that this is absolutely not helping society any. So where is the end point? Where do we come to? Is it another, I don't want to say it, but is it another race war? Is it another similar thing where it's the Me Too movement just trying to overtake everything else? And I'm not, again, I'm absolutely not suggesting the Me Too movement inherently, what its core base value is wrong, because it isn't. There's nothing wrong with women who have been put in situations that they shouldn't have been put in, where they felt like they had to do certain things because of their place in a workplace. That isn't wrong that they feel that way. It's just, again, I think the core values that it started with were hijacked very early on. And I think that's so much the point these days, is that these good causes that get started by the right people with the right frame of mind, they start it with such good intentions that it blows up so quick that they can't really rein it in. And then these people swoop in and say, hey, we're going to help you. We're going to help you. And then they just overtake it, hijack it, and then make it into more or less than what it is, or more than what it was originally. And that in and of itself is a problem. The Me Too movement is very necessary, but the people who don't really fall into that category use it as to be, they want to be a victim. And there's plenty of people in all of these things that want to be victims. Jesse Smollett, for instance, he wanted to be a victim to further his career. And it's so blatantly obvious now. But he thought, because of the way that the Me Too movement was going and the way that the forced diversity in the world was going, he probably looked at it and says, hey, if I do this, everybody's going to come and say, man, this is so wrong. Look at what happened to him. And if you watch the press conference that the chief of police in Chicago gave, he's an African American. Here's this African American talking about Jesse Smollett, and you saw in his voice, you heard in his voice, and you saw in his face, he was absolutely disgusted by Jesse Smollett. He was absolutely livid with him. And he in every word he said, he's like, you are not helping the ability of our people to become equal. If there is anything that you did, you've now made it harder for people to believe true victims. And that is a problem with this forced diversity and the forced ethics and the forced agendas, is you get in the wrong people's minds where they think, I can use this to my advantage. And it's absolutely at a point now where it's dry tinder, and somebody's going to light a match too close to it here soon. And then what are we going to get? You know?
Yeah, I couldn't.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, with that, Lee, you got to be going here soon. I want to thank you guys. Really quick, go ahead and talk about your channels one more time, and we'll go ahead and wrap this up.
Miss, you have the shortest one, so go ahead.
Well, guys, I'm still Miss Sarcastic Nerd, and you guys still call me Miss. And you can find me on YouTube under Miss. Well, you can try. You may not be able to find me. But you can find me on Twitter on @Ms. Sarcastic Nerd if you would like.
See? Nice and short. I am the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media shield money-taking, the man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying YouTuber in YouTube entertainment today, Lee Cole the Fourth.
Next to me.
Next to the largest ego in the world.
Thank you.
And right now I'm just doing a bit of this and that. I've got Game of Thorns premiering on my channel, where me and PB discuss how irate we are with the season. It is hilarious. I am somewhat drunk. Come and check it out, because there's funny shenanigans to be had. And just here in a moment, I will be also discussing more Game of Thrones. So if my hair is white and I look like a White Walker, that is the reason why.
When you're drunk.
Not yet.
I like to imagine that you're always,
but not yet.
When you're not drunk, you're like really boring and stiff.
Oh, wow.
Okay, Miss, I'm totally buzzed right now, so that's probably why I'm not boring.
All right, guys, thank you very much for coming by. My name is Chris Knight. This was the Real Review 3000. I want to say a couple things really quick. I want you to go check out our Subscribers for a Cause video. We're working on raising money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Watch that. You'll get some information on that. Go check out our GoFundMe page for that. The link is in the description for that video. And we're trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers. We're going to be going ahead and getting money for that charity until we get to 1,000 subscribers. But we're not once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we're going to pick another charity and we're going to keep going. So don't just try to keep us under that. We're trying to get more subscribers. So please tell your friends about us. Please help us by subscribing to the channel, and go check out the GoFundMe page. Please. Anything helps, 50 cents, $1, whatever. Just help us out, get some money in there for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. I want to thank Miss and Lee Cole the Fourth for making the first episode of The Gospel According to Chris a success. Thank you guys for carrying the show for the first 30 to 45 minutes. I really appreciate you guys doing that. And to everybody in the chat, thank you for coming into the chat. I appreciate everybody for watching. And to everybody out there in YouTube land, thank you and have a nice day.
Bye.